But if you try to say that in Dubai, Tokyo, or Singapore, they'd laugh you out of the room, right? So when we look at smart, and I'd rather use the term smarter, because smart sounds like it's an end state that you achieve, and then that's it. It's not. It's smarter. Or I could talk about a smart city program. It's a program of work to move from one state to another state, where the other state is hopefully better than where you came from. And what is it that we're trying to improve? Well, if we think about, well, why people are in cities, because they're looking for a better quality of life. I think Sheikh Mohammed talked about the job of the government is to make the people happy. Denmark is apparently the happiest country in the world. I'm not sure how many smart cities they have, but there's other factors as well that impact happiness. But some of these things can be impacted by technology. And then when we look at, well, what is a smart city? Here's where standards start to have an impact, because you want to perhaps benchmark where you are as a city against other cities. So there are standards bodies out there. For example, British Standards has got some work on smart cities who are more addressing the program side of a smart city. ISO has a standard came out this year, 37120, I think it is, 37520. And that's really allows you to start benchmarking key parameters about a city against other cities. ITU is also working on some standards, and that's more around the technology part of it, right, that might go in there, which is all very good. So if we look at the benchmarking side of it and say, well, we're at state A, we want to achieve state B, so we need a program of work to move us from here to here. So that's our smart city program. Some years ago, I was actually in Sao Paulo advising and working with the city mayor's office there on exactly these things. And one of the key things that I advised them on was make sure that what you do or prioritize to do is visible to the citizens. What we're seeing right now in Brazil and Sao Paulo is the impact of not doing that, which is that the population perceives that the government has spent a lot of money on the World Cup and put up the price of public transportation. And Sao Paulo, if anyone's ever been there, has got real transportation issues. It's by definition a mega city. There's a population of more than 10 million. In the last 14 years, the number of mega cities has trebled. That means that not only have we got more cities, the cities are bigger, with a denser populations and therefore challenges that can, hopefully, some of them can be addressed with the use of technology. Ghani mentioned about the infrastructure as a first wave, and actually it's something that we were talking about the other day. So I would look at, well, we can classify cities at a big picture level of what is the key theme behind the Smart City program. Infrastructure, citizen services, or innovation type, M-government type drivers. And I'd classify Dubai in that third area. And if we think back 10 years ago or so, e-government was maybe the theme. The barrier to entry was an internet connection and a PC. The barrier to entry for M-government is a smart device and either free Wi-Fi or a mobile broadband package which is affordable. And over the last 12 months we've seen some very key moves in that area in the UAE. I can tell you personally, 6 months ago I was paying 100 dirhams a month for 100 megabytes, and I pay 250 dirhams a month for 10 gigabytes, which I can never use actually so far. So I need more apps to find a way to use this 10 gigabytes that I've got. Just the final one on the app side. There are some very simple things that can be done and already being done. And I'll give you one example. It's an app called Pulse Point. Pulse Point is an app which gives you live data about 911 calls, whether it's a cardiac arrest or a fire emergency or something like that. If you're a registered CPR practitioner, you could be only 2 minutes away from someone who's had a heart attack. The ambulance could take 30 minutes to reach there. You could really save someone's life based on some open government data, some data being shared with the public, and the combination of operator capabilities, so like things like location-based services. So these things brought together can be a very powerful way of engaging citizens and enabling innovation in apps. Thank you.
Thank you, Safdar. The other thing I should mention is that we'd like to throw open the floor to questions towards the end. So we should have 10 or 15 minutes for questions start thinking of some good questions for the panel members. The third member of the panel here is Jean-Luc Scherer. Jean-Luc is from Ericsson, and he and I were talking about, just over the last couple of days, about measuring smart cities and smart city indexes and so on. So I think Jean-Luc's got some sort of interesting comments about, not from his industry perspective, but from a broader perspective on his experiences with smart cities.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me here. So I would like to start by just continuing where Safa left it off regarding to some of the challenges that governments and regulators have when it comes to defining a smart city agenda. I think that the very first thing that needs to be dealt with is how do you translate the objectives of a ruler, of an administration, into things that actually you can measure, and basically how do you measure the progress? And there's a number of indicators and measurements that have been put in place. We at Ericsson, we have released a Network Society City Index. We will have about 70% of world population living in big cities. In that index, we look at smart cities from two perspectives. One is we look at the ICT maturity. And we know today that ICT has an impact on the economy, it has an impact on the society. We know that 10% increase in broadband penetration can have up to 1% impact on GDP. This is just one of the impacts on the ICT, but at the same time, we need to know how is this ICT maturity, and with maturity I mean things like penetration of broadband, availability of smartphones, usage of smartphones, usage of cloud, etc. How is that impacting on what we call the triple bottom line? And what we call a triple bottom line is really, and this is where we put the citizen also back into the equation. We look at things like impact on environment, so basically the sustainability dimension. One of the big challenges related to urbanization, and we know that by the mid of the century, we'll have about 70% of world population living in big cities, is basically the inadequate infrastructures that are in place. This leads to pollution related to increased transportation in the cities, inadequate energy systems. So these are things that basically today are challenges and that need to be addressed from an environmental perspective. At the same time, also, we have another dimension, which is the social aspect. How is the ICT maturity? How is the ICT investments impacting things like job creation, education, healthcare, etc., etc. And then we have the economic growth. So basically, what we try to do also then is to look at the agendas of different cities and then benchmark them against each other, against this index. That is something, this type of measurements is very important then for regulators and administrations to define the right policies. What needs to be done then to build a smart city can maybe be divided in two or three areas. One is to look at, okay, how far are we with this ICT maturity in terms of broadband penetration, device usage, cloud penetration. We have also new needs when it comes to managing all the data produced by all the devices that we mentioned earlier. Here we're talking about big data analytics, and how do we provide that data to developers to develop applications that make sense. So we have the ICT maturity to deal with. We have then big companies like ourselves that work with certain industry verticals. So we're very active today in areas like automotive or energy management. But then also in the city, it's important, and that's the fourth thing, is create the platform for open innovation. And open innovation is already made available by open platforms in the devices. But also, I think an important part will be opening the data and providing data to application developers to create innovations. And here I can give one example, which I find very, very relevant, and that's in the city of Amsterdam. There is, I think every year there's a hackathon now organized around creating applications, innovative applications for the city, using data about GIS data, pollution data, parking data, etc., etc. So four things really: the regulation part and having clear measurements around that. ICT maturity, addressing some of the key infrastructure needs around energy and automotive, and then creating this platform for open innovation.
But if I'd just like to pass over to Michael. Welcome to Dubai, and I know you and I have had some good discussions already about open cities. So,
okay, I'm going to get up if that's all right. Otherwise, I will fall asleep. I just want to put you on notice, first of all, that I would like to invite every single one of you to join in the great enterprise of helping to build and helping to set the global standards for smart cities. It's a really important thing. And I want to invite you in two different ways, and I'm going to talk about them through the 5 minutes I've got. Dubai is one of the key members of something called the City Protocol Society. The City Protocol Society is a city-led but cross-sector, not-for-profit organisation registered in California, but with a number of global cities and key industrial companies and universities working together to find out common solutions to city problems. If you look at this audience, I've had the privilege, because I'm here, of looking at all of you. We're all very different. Different ages, different genders, different types of people. Some are quiet, some are like myself and retiring, and some are more extrovert. We're all very different. And cities like to think that they're all very different to other cities. However, if we get ill, we can go to the doctor, and the doctor knows that we have very, very similar anatomies, and we can be treated in very, very similar ways. And if we go to the shops, we know that there's only a certain kind of range of sizes and shapes, and we can find the clothes that we need and the shoes we need, because actually there's not that many different types of people when it really comes down to it. And it's the same about cities. And what we're looking for is, can we work together to identify solutions that can help many cities to deliver, to become smarter more quickly. We've just setting up the City Protocol Task Force. We wanted to get at least 1,000 people over the next couple of years working together in small task and finish groups to deliver those solutions that cities need. And we're building on the, if you like, the example of the Internet Engineering Task Force, which is what keeps the Internet running. So I want to challenge all of you and invite all of you to join. And also there's something I've just set up called City Building Blocks. I'm involved in pretty well every single standards initiative around smart cities, and there's a real opportunity to feed in and help make sure that the standards being built are right. But I want to talk very briefly about some of the issues that have been raised. So what is smart cities? Well, cities need to have lots of smartness in them. They need to have smart mobility, they need to have smart energy, they need to have smart education, smart healthcare. Smart cities are about how you can bring all of that together so that the city as a whole can function in a consistent or coherent way. And that's a really important thing, because in a way, as the individual city systems start to get smarter, it becomes easier for it to become chaotic and things to start to work against each other. And it becomes more confusing for us as the citizen to engage with it all. And so the smartness of a city is an indication of how well that city can bring together all its resources, its infrastructures, its people, its organizations, its systems, to deliver on the purposes it set itself, to be able to grasp the opportunities that face that city and to be able to tackle the challenges that are in front of it. So that's what a smart city is really all about. And there, of course, technology is a really important aspect, because technology, and it's really about data sharing, open data, allows information from the different individual organizations and systems and everything else to be brought together and utilized to help that city work better. And not just for the managers up there in their offices, but for you and me too, because by bringing together all that information that can be generated, the Internet of Things, and all the other ways that people are bringing together useful information, by making that available, then clever people like you can develop apps that can make that information useful to me so that I can live my life in the city much more easily and much more fulfilling. So this is the great thing about the smart city and about data. Now, why are standards needed? We've already had some examples of that. Standards are needed because to get the benefit of these things, you have to get all the individual bits right. Standards really have two functions. One function of a standard is to make sure that when I buy something, I know it works. It's not going to blow up. It's not going to fail after 2 minutes. It's going to work. You know, we know that pretty well everything in this building is probably made according to certain standards, and that means that we can be confident that it will work. But the other thing about standards is standards make sure things fit together. When I came to the UAE, I have a laptop, and it's a certain plug and everything else. I know I can come and I can plug my laptop in here because I know there are certain standards about sockets. Unfortunately, they are different in different countries, but there's only about 6 or 7 different types of electrical sockets in the world. And so you can carry around with you, because of those standards, a little kit, a little block which you can pull apart, and which means that whatever equipment you've got, you know you'll be able to plug it in to wherever you go to and be able to use it. And you know not only does the plug fit in terms of shape,